Hey guys, welcome. So you can see there's stuff going on behind me here on the loom, but you'll also notice that there's these things here and you're maybe wondering what that is all for. So today what we're going to talk about is building a warping trapeze. Hey guys, thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia Yarns, and we are a hand-dyed knitting yarn company based in Vancouver in Canada. Now, this is Taking Back Friday, where we come every week and we talk about things that I happen to be dyeing or knitting or weaving or spinning or whatever. In this case today, we're going to talk about this very, very tiny little thing that could potentially be sort of a big thing. And what that is that for the past several months, since January, I've been working on this epic cloth project. And for me, that's basically just trying to tackle a weaving project that has been in my mind for a long, long time. And rather than pushing it off and kicking it down the road a little bit more and waiting until the time is right to do this project, I decided to take this big project. In my mind, it's big, and I broke it down into multiple little steps and then spread them out over 9 months. And the idea is that I'm going to finish this weaving project by October. Now, it is now August, so that gives me only about 2.5, 3 months to get this piece of cloth finished. But as you can see, the loom is not dressed yet. The loom is not dressed yet. The warp has been spread out through the rattle at the top here of the loom, but you can see here, these are the warp chains. They still need to be cranked and wound onto the back beam. And so that is what these things are for. So these two things are going to help me with that entire process of winding the warp onto the loom. I've never had these things before. This is going to be quite new for me. I'm going to explain to you what this is. So typically when you're putting yarns onto your loom and you're dressing the loom, you're warping it back to front, it's very helpful to have two people doing it. So in one case, one person would stand at the side of the loom and sort of turn the back beam to wind the threads on. And someone else would be standing here at the front holding on to it and giving it a little bit of tension. Now, you know, I've done this before in the past with my husband either holding onto the warp chains or maybe my kids are holding onto the warp chains. But yeah, in a lot of cases it's basically just me by myself in the attic trying to get these threads onto the loom. And so what I've done in the past is set up a sort of a system where I use some empty milk jugs and I filled them up with water. They're probably super gross right now, but they're 2 milk jugs that I filled up with water so that there's weight to them. And then I basically hung those weights from the warp chains and used those as an extra hand in some ways to add the tension to the warp chains while I crank it onto the back beam. But in any case, that's what this thing is for. This is going to be a warping trapeze, and the idea of the warping trapeze is to hold all your warp threads up and away and sort of move them away from the entire beaming process, and then you can attach weights to each one of your warp chains, or like each bundle of warped threads can get a little bit of a weight on it. And then because they're positioned a little bit away, it spreads out the tension, it makes everything much more even. And so that when you're actually cranking the back beam and putting the warp threads onto the back of the loom, the whole process can be done by one person. And the tension on all of those warp threads can be more even and just even, because you want the back beam of your loom to be warped very evenly. You don't want there to be some loose threads and some tight threads, because when you do, then you're going to have really bubbly, uneven cloth. You might end up having lots of errors. Just so many terrible things happen if you don't make sure that your warp is nice and evenly put onto the loom. So that's what this is designed to do. Now, all this is 2 pieces of wood. I know that there is a description of warping trapeze in this old Swedish weaving book that I can't seem to get my hands on. I have seen various warping valet setups. You know, Laura Fry, who is a production weaver, she's done a course for Interweave about efficient weaving. I watched her use her warping valet, and her warping valet is basically a rod that is suspended from her ceiling. She has it sort of screwed into her ceiling. And so the warp threads go up and over this bar that's positioned on her ceiling, and that's how she makes it all happen. And I went to Home Depot to ask the guys about screwing things into my ceiling, and they were very against the idea of me doing that for whatever reason. So I decided not to do that and instead got some pieces of wood to sort of suspend a pole up in the air. Now, all this is right now is it's just a piece of wood that I'm using to clamp to the side of my loom with one of these quick clamps. And I just sawed the bottom of it with like a little hacksaw to make it at an angle. So that way when it sits on the ground, it's not sitting straight up and down, but it's sitting more comfortably at an angle. And so I measured this angle sort of to be the natural position of where this piece of wood happens to sit when it rests against the front beam and then sort of like just rests against, there's a block in the back near the middle of the loom, and so it's just kind of settled in that one little spot. And so I'm just going to use the clamps to clamp them together. Now, in order to put my pole through this, what I have here is I got myself this lovely copper pipe. So this copper pipe, I think, is 1 inch. It's 1 inch in diameter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and drill 2 circles, one in this side and one in this side. That's 1 inch. And then I can take this pole and stick it through the 2 circles. And then if I'm worried about it falling out or anything like that, I can run a string or a cord through the middle of the pipe and attach a couple of weights on either side. So this pipe is not going to really go anywhere. But this pipe would go like this. And then your warp chains, which are here, I'm going to put them under the front beam, and then they would go over this pipe. And the pipe would basically be there under some circles, and then I attach weights to this, and then I can crank the whole thing on, and it will be nice and perfectly even and perfect. So I've been a little bit scared of drilling the circles in this piece of wood. Yeah, I've been a little bit scared. So there's other ways that you could attach this pole. I mean, you could get some hooks, so that way you can just kind of have the pole rest in some hooks that you screw into the side of the piece of wood. There's lots of different ways of doing this. And if you go online, you can sort of Google and find lots of different ways that people have created a warping trapeze or a warping valet. Some people have made A-frames. Some people have made A-frames that also double as warping boards. It's pretty cool what you can do, but I just wanted to make something that was super, super simple that could be disassembled and basically stored in a corner of this attic. So that is basically what we're doing right now. I'm going to take these 2 pieces of wood outside. I'm going to drill some circles in them. I hope that all goes okay. And then, yeah, that's basically the next step of this entire weaving process. That's kind of what I've been doing lately. So, yeah, that's it. It's the beginning of August. I don't know where summer's gone. I'm about to go camping with my family again this weekend. So I would love to hear from you guys and what you guys are making this summer, how you guys are staying cool, what kind of projects you're working on, if you've ever made a warping trapeze or if you want to use one. This is absolutely not something that is necessary for weaving. It is just something that could be very helpful, and it's like an extra helping hand if you don't happen to have 4 hands to warp your loom. In the meantime, if you guys are looking for SweetGeorgia, you can find us at sweetgeorgiayarns.com. We have a mystery knit-along coming up in August 27th to be exact. We're going to be starting a mystery knit-along called Carolina Waves. So you can find that pattern on Ravelry. You can also find that pattern on our own website. And we'll be hosting all the conversation and the discussion about the mystery knit-along through our School of SweetGeorgia, which is schoolofsweetgeorgia.com. Yeah, I think that's it for this week. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this episode, if you like this content, please do hit like. And if you want to see more content like this where I'm talking about knitting and weaving and spinning and dyeing, please do hit subscribe, and we'll come back to you every Friday with a new video, Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for being here today, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, bye for now.